Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Quoba, and it is time to talk to Wendy Chiccetti again. We are at halftime. It's still the beginning of July, and we are going to have a look with Wendy. What is coming down the pike in terms of energies and so on and so forth. So, Wendy, welcome back.
Thank you, Judith.
So, Wendy, before we jump into our topic at hand, I can't resist but ask you, what do you make of the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones?
I actually am thrilled.
Okay.
When I found out, I told my husband, this is the best news I've had in years.
Yeah, the timestamp, I found that very interesting. And because of the timestamp, yeah, I can understand that people are speculating that it might have been an inside job.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what the timestamp
It
was.
was 4 a.m. in the morning, 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
Okay. I do remember hearing that now. I remember hearing that some people thought it came from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Other people just heard an explosion, down low, so there's all kinds of controversy, but I'm just grateful. And I think it's a sign that people just aren't putting up with that kind of crap anymore. Could be, or it could be, like you say, an inside job.
Yeah. And we have here, the farmers are rising up.
They are also in Germany.
Yeah, and it started in the Netherlands. And just the other day, the logistical headquarter in the Netherlands of Picnic, that is a delivery service for food, yeah, and that is Bill Gates backed and funded, and that logistical headquarter has been burned down in the Netherlands as well.
Yeah. To me, it's all part of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations 2030 project. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to know when nitrogen was ever considered part of the pollutants.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And but funny enough, now that you mentioned that, that is exactly what Sri Lanka did.
Yes.
And look what happened to that country within a year. So, and now, today I stumbled on it. The WEF has deleted an article where the former prime minister of Sri Lanka, he has abdicated now, he is gone. He wrote an article on the WEF blog, how I will make my country rich by 2025.
Well, he's not gotten off to a good start, has he?
Yeah, and how he is going to implement all these wonderful, wonderful things, and how agriculture, yeah, wow. And now they didn't say anything, they just deleted it.
Well, that World Economic Forum has gotten its tentacles in almost every government around the world. This has
Yeah.
been their plan, and they are comfortable at taking it slow so that, people don't get really upset until the end. And we're at the end, but they've been doing this for a long time. Justin Trudeau and all these other people, even your prime minister, what was her name?
The chancellor, Merkel.
Well, they're all graduates.
Yeah, she was in the first class in Davos.
Yeah.
And in her class was also Zuckerberg, Bill Gates,
So all of them. I
Yeah.
saw a meme today that showed pictures of all of them and said, "Children of the Corn." You remember that movie, Children of the Corn?
No, I have never seen that.
That made me laugh for sure. Well,
So,
I
okay.
there's
Yeah, go ahead.
there are enough people waking up
Mhm.
that I think around the world, you know, with cases just like you guys are experiencing, you know, they're going to overthrow. We're going to overthrow it. The people are going to rise up. I really believe that. You know, back in the days of Alexander the Great, you know, when the energies were like they are now, back 325 BC, um, you know, he was creating his own empire. But now we have Pluto moving into Aquarius, which means we're creating the people's empire. Very soon it's gonna, the table's gonna turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I certainly hope so.
I know. Well, you know, you talked about what's going on with you guys there.
Mm.
Our, I don't even know what to call him, our brain
The
dead,
demented one?
yeah, demented brain dead one
Mhm.
is selling our oil to China.
Yeah, I know. I know. Mhm.
While we're, and his son is making bazillions of dollars, you know, while we're paying huge prices, and he's blaming it all on Russia.
Yeah, that is what they are doing here as well. That's
Yeah,
the perfect scapegoat.
perfect scapegoat.
Mhm. Yeah. And that does not mean, that I'm a fan of Putin when I
Yeah,
say that.
me
I'm
either.
not. Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, sometimes it's really getting ridiculous.
Yeah, he's not responsible for the destruction of the entire world.
No, no,
I mean,
no,
come
no.
on.
Yeah, that's giving him a little bit too much credit.
Well, it's my understanding too that he's quite ill, that he has cancer.
Yeah, that is what they always write. I don't believe that for a second. That to me is wishful thinking.
Well, I did his astrology, and I will tell you
Uh,
from his astrology, he's in trouble.
he's in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, we will see. But, I remember here a month ago or so, the press was writing that, yeah, he is in trouble and that he has probably just weeks to live. And yeah, but in the meantime, you see
Right.
him in Japan, you see him here, you see him there. So I'm not quite sure how bad it really is and what they are doing about it. So
Well, I
yeah.
do know and have heard that if he does go, there are people worse than him in the wings. So it's going to be half a dozen of one, six of another.
So Wendy, a lot of stuff is going on in Taurus right now. My goodness. So Mars moved into Taurus at the beginning on, I guess, 5th of July it was. So I've written it down so that I do not mix it all up. Then we have Moon node conjunct Uranus.
Yes, this is
That
the stellium.
31st of July.
Yeah.
Then we have Mars conjunct Moon node in Taurus. That is on the 1st of August. And we have Mars conjunct Uranus. Oh, wow, the 2nd of August.
Yeah, a stellium is when three planets come together
Mhm.
and they're all at 18 degrees, and this happens late on the 31st.
Mhm.
So it goes through um, the end of July, the 1st of August, they're exact. And then, of course, they start changing a little bit of a degree here and there, but they're all within the orb of influence. And that's something people need to understand what that is. It isn't just the exactitude where they're just exactly at the same degree. There's influence prior to that, and there's influence after that.
Mhm.
So it's not going to go out of orb of influence until after the 10th of August. And this happens particularly with the outer planets and also the nodes. Now, the North Node is where we're going as a humanity. That's our future. And with Uranus conjunct it and Mars being the trigger of it, I mean, this is signaling huge change and huge eruption of the world. It's not just any particular country, it's all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit on it in a previous interview, but Uranus is one of the outer planets, and of course is slower than Mercury, Venus, or whatever.
Right.
So would you agree that that means it is less personal and it has more to do with the collective experience?
Yes, absolutely. All of
Mhm,
the outer planets are like that. Saturn is considered the boundary planet. It kind of has both connotations,
mhm.
but Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are considered the generational planets. They
Yeah.
affect generations of people. You know, right now, Mars and Venus and Mercury are going fast, 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 fast. Mercury's going about 2 degrees a day. Venus is and Mars approximately a degree a day. They're going very, very fast. But always, always Mars is the trigger. Mars is war and violence and aggressive behavior. And of course, it's been it's been hitting everything, you know, for months, going around the zodiac, really causing a lot of havoc.
Yeah, but Mars in Taurus is not really ideal. I can't imagine that Mars is happy in Taurus.
Well, no. What's Mars is aggressive, causing problems and disharmony and violence. And Taurus is very wants harmony and peace and beauty. You put Mars in Taurus, and it's like they're not happy at all together. Mm-mm.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what would you say can we expect the next couple of months? I would say that here's my impression. I know that Uranus is a planet that is grinding down old structures. Yeah,
Mhm.
structures that are no longer useful and that are destructive in the long run. So, and I can see that right now, although for my personal taste, it's painfully slow. But I think that, for instance, I don't believe that our current government here in Germany, that they can survive the rest of the year. I don't believe that. So,
We can't either in the United States. There's no way.
mhm, okay. So, do you see a grinding down of institutions and structures that are obsolete and should go?
Yes, well, Uranus represents the new, the innovative, and
Mm,
Saturn and Uranus right now are in this square. They're moving into the fourth square in their rotation, and it's just total chaos. Finishing up Saturn finishing up its old business, which is big government, business, money, all of that stuff, big religion, and Uranus is representing the new, helping to break up that structure. The other one that's involved in it is Pluto. Pluto is getting into what they call the anaretic degree, which is the last degrees where it digs in its heels to do its work. And Pluto is the destruction of the old government, money, big business, all of that stuff. And that isn't unique to any one country. It's for the world,
mhm,
you know. And so the world is changing, and it really is changing rapidly, even though, you know, you feel like it's not happening fast enough. I mean, when you look at the last hundreds of years, it's really going very, very quickly right now.
mhm.
Major changes. I remember and loved, you know, the 50s and you know, the movies of Father Knows Best, and you know, the Lucy show, and everything was, you know, just the white picket fence and everything was great. That doesn't exist anymore. Not at
Mm,
all. None of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I every day when I read the news here, I'm just sitting there. Sometimes I cannot even comment on that because it is too crazy.
Mhm. Well,
It
and you have to realize that Uranus energy is erratic energy. even its rotation around the zodiac is not a consistent rotation that we can count on. It's a, you know, it's gets askew. Everything about Uranus is unusual, quick and sudden changes, you know, different stuff, and it represents new stuff. And there are some good new things coming. You know, it's not all bad. We just as individuals have to determine our boundaries, because through this we have great polarization. You know, the governments want to dig their heels in and get more control. You know, the pharmaceutical companies want to dig their heels in and, you know, create more fear so people buy more of their products. And you know what I'm talking about. You know, and the Bill Gates and all of these people are creating fear so that you'll buy those things by what they're manufacturing, you know, diseases, you know, we've got that. But on the other hand, we have people that are really innovative, and that's what Uranus is also about. Innovative work to help clear the body of the toxic influence, the toxins of what's happened in the last couple of years. You know, they're working on things that are so innovative. And this is all Taurus, by the way, energy, which is sound healing, wave healing, all of those kinds of things that are very, very helpful. You know, we have, as individuals, you know, we have to use our discernment, and we have to figure out what feels right to us. We also need to be very clear about our boundaries and what boundaries we will not cross, no matter who says it. And we may have family members and friends that cross those boundaries and do all these harmful things to their bodies and so forth. But we need to sit back without judgment and just hold our line. That's what's going to happen, is we need to all hold our line based on the boundaries we will not cross. Okay. And many, many people are coming to that. You know, there's a film that's been created called Thrive. There's Thrive 1, 2, and 3. Have you heard about it? Have you seen it?
The first one. And then there was, for my taste, a little bit too much occult Illuminati symbolism in there. And then I dropped the whole subject. I didn't watch the part 2 or 3. I just dropped it.
I haven't seen it. I've heard about it, but I've heard that like 80 million people have watched it. And so I was wondering, and I thought, you know, I might take the time just to take a look at it. But yeah, I'm very cognizant about those type of symbolism. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah.
I think the boundaries are also very important, because we actually do not know what, you know, after the destruction, after the grinding down, what will, okay, yeah, sure, we can contribute to that. We can determine what it will look like. But I guess the fear of people is more along the lines of, well, we don't know what is coming. Maybe we end up even worse, which is hard to imagine at this point. But then again, certain groups have surprised me time and again that, yeah, certain things can get even worse than you thought. So I think, yeah, that is a very important point to come to grips with our boundaries.
Yes, and people need to stay on alert. The big banks, the central bank, you know, all of these things, most of the big banks in the world are not solvent.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And they're doing some pretty shady things. And if it, and we did this, by the way, we took our money out of Chase Bank, JP Morgan, and we put it in a local credit union.
Yeah.
And I think that's a safe way to go for people. But money is going to be a big issue in the next few months, huge issue. And people need to be preparing, you know, where can you safeguard your money? And not only that, where can you or how can you be prepared for the food shortages and all, and the blackouts?
Mhm.
You know, people need to be thinking about that. We purchased, a system, generator system with solar. So we'll always have, power to run our freezers and refrigerators and a few things, and we can rotate around. But that's what people need to be thinking about is
Mhm.
preparation. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And
Mhm.
people need to know that. I just did a video a couple of days ago, and the gal that I do it with, she said, don't sugarcoat anything. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And I think this is the time not to sugarcoat. We are
Mhm.
entering a critical time in the history of this planet.
Mhm.
And, people, we talk about, as astrologers, we talk about things that are happening in energies, that we can't, all we can do is tell you what the energies are. We can't tell you when things are going to happen or what's going to happen, you know. But this time is different. People get, skeptical because nothing major, huge
Mhm.
happens. But I promise you, these times are not, just, yeah, blah, blah, blah. These are big, huge times. I don't know if you know about the um, Sabian symbols. Have you heard of the Sabian symbols?
No, not. I do know that 18 degrees in Taurus is very, yeah, important right now. But with the Sabian symbol, I'm not so familiar. So please elaborate.
Okay, well, the Sabian symbols were created by Mark Edmonds and a psychic woman, Elsie Wheeler, in 1925. And they sat down in a park in San Diego and created a definition for each degree of each sign in the zodiac.
Mhm.
And if your sign in your chart is like, say exactly 18 degrees, then you would read the one for 18 degrees. But if it's over 30 minutes of arc, then you'd read the next one. And so the one for 18 degrees, which happens on the 31st and the 1st, is a newly formed continent.
Wow.
That's the definition, a newly formed continent. Now, there's all kinds of speculation. Will something come up out of the ocean? Will
Mhm.
another continent rise? We've had talk in the United States about a massive earthquake that will divide our continent in half.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't know what's coming, but I will tell you it's big. It's huge, unlike
Mhm.
anything we've ever seen. And so that's why I keep pushing preparedness. You got to stay out of fear, because fear just paralyzes you. You
Yeah.
have to just move forward one step at a time, keep preparing, stay alert, take care of your family, and to get through these hard times. And it's going to be everywhere, as it is already starting. We see it in the United States. It's equal and even more powerful than the 1960s, where the two Kennedy brothers were killed and Martin Luther King in the 1920s and 30s. And Germany was having a really hard time back then as well.
Exactly 100 years later, we will have the same shit again.
Yeah, and it's like, the huge depression going into World War II, which was hard. And so we have all of these, and for the United States, it was going into the Civil War.
Mm.
And so it's like all three of them, and even worse than that. Back when we would go through each one of those, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. Well, when you keep heaping up everything
Mm.
else, it's bigger.
So what I glean from that is there might be even major Earth changes in the cards.
Well, see, Uranus and Mars are consistently involved when there are major earthquakes,
Mhm.
accidents, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. And this new moon today, or this full moon in Capricorn, is a super moon. And a supermoon is when the moon is closest to the earth. And this is the closest one for this year, which is increased gravitational pull, which increases the seismic activity. And so we can expect, and it's usually like a week window, one way or the other, earthquakes over 6 magnitude, or volcanic eruptions, extreme tides, stuff with the ocean, all of that stuff. So yeah, we've got that on top of it.
Mm. So because everything is assembling right now in Taurus, and Taurus is an earth sign, so would that also mean that the energies can manifest here more quickly than usual?
Because it deals with the earth? No, it just means that there are different energies manifesting.
Okay.
Not that they're more quickly. Actually, if it were in Aries, it would be more quickly.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? Because it's
Yeah.
a faster energy. Taurus is slow and plodding. It's like the bull sitting out in the pasture chewing its cud. It's slow. Okay. But when you put Uranus and Mars with it, then it changes it. It gives it a more rapid energy. But Taurus itself is very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And Taurus deals with food. It also deals with money. It deals with, the earth, what we do with the earth, all of those things is Taurus. And you put Uranus and Mars together with it. And also the North Node, the future. It's powerful. It's just beyond what we have ever experienced in our lifetime. And this is what people don't get. It's just, oh, blah, 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 more of the same. No.
You know what I find so I don't even know, sad, frustrating. A lot of people, although our government even told the people you better you get a what you bought for your family, and the word is missing, for your fridge.
Solar
Generators. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. So that is out in the open, and a lot of other things as well, even in the mainstream media. It's not that you have to dig around for that. Mm-hmm. But still, I always talk to people in the supermarket, wherever I go. Yeah. So just to feel the pulse. Yeah. So, but the majority, they are still thinking it cannot happen here in Germany.
I know. Same here in the United States. Mm. Another interesting thing, you've heard about the baby formula shortage.
Yeah.
Do you know that Bill Gates has created a company for imitation breast milk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder who started that shortage.
Yeah. But what I find even more shocking, that so many people do not know how to help themselves. I mean, we have raised children for thousands of years, and there was no baby formula.
Right. And what we fed our children, my mother fed us growing up, was condensed milk and Caro syrup. That's what we drank growing up as babies. It wasn't until after like the 60s that they really got into the formulas, and even now, condensed milk that is not organic, that is from cows that have been treated with all of these hormones, and then you put Caro syrup, genetically modified. What trash you're feeding your children, whether it's formulas or whether it's the condensed milk and Caro syrup in this day and age. But there are lots of things you can feed babies, and I would certainly caution people to get away from anything that is genetically modified and as organic as possible that you're going to feed your children when the formulas can't be found.
Yeah. But you know what? This, we say in German, Vogelstrauß, the big bird that digs his head into the sand.
Oh,
Yeah, we describe that in German, you know, if people do not want to see what is going on, that they behave like
the
this
ostrich.
bird,
Yeah,
ostrich. Yeah.
it's
Mm.
sand. And there are so many that are
Mm.
doing that, but that's been typical throughout the ages, I think. People don't realize, you know, they get in their comfort zone and everything's groovy and they just can't even imagine that something is nefarious, that there are things going on to plots and plans and nefarious things to take over the world or take over all the money or whatever. And that's
Mm.
what's been going on while people have been lulled into a false sense of security.
Mm. Yeah, well, when I followed the remarks of our energy minister, uh, well, he said, yeah, what is coming will be like a nightmare, and it will tear apart the fabric of society, and other remarks along those lines. So I'm thinking, what in the world do people think that means?
Yeah. Now it's interesting that nobody in our government has been saying that.
Mhm.
Only the other side, you know, the white hat type of people, the patriots, they're talking about it, but nothing coming from our government at all. So
Mhm.
at least you've been warned, you're right, and people
Mhm.
don't get it. When you can't buy food, you can't heat your homes, you can't, yeah, no internet, no electricity, no nothing. And what are they gonna do?
No water,
No water.
no toilet.
We've already planned, we found this really cool plan for toilets, which is you get a bucket, one of those 5-gallon buckets, and you put a
Mm.
seat on it, and you don't even need water. You put um, what's it called? Sawdust in it. And so every time you do your business, you put more sawdust on top, and then you keep putting sawdust on it, and then put it in the compost and start over. You know, so there are ways of doing it. I know of a lot of people who are building outhouses in their backyards, you
Mhm.
know. But we did 3 setups here because I have a full-time live-in helper, and one for my husband and I if, you know, we don't have water. And we're on a well here too, which is powered by electricity. If the power goes out, we're screwed. And so we've been storing a lot of water, you know. So
Yeah.
people need to sit back and go, okay, what are the priorities? What can't we live without? And then start figuring out what you need to do to have some of that stuff to get by. And it could be 6 months, it could be a year. We just don't know.
What you just mentioned, Saturn squared Uranus, that was the energy that we had during the Corona nonsense, yeah?
Yes. Mhm.
Mhm.
And Saturn was also conjunct Pluto at that time. And that's when all of that stuff started. But we're heading into the 4th exact square of that. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's been what's been so disruptive, creating so much crisis and chaos, and like Uranus breaking up the structure of big government and big business. And now it's going to be exact again in a couple months. But it's still in the orb of influence. It's still within 4 degrees of each other, you know, and for the outer planets, you know, that's influencing each other, but it's getting closer and closer to exactitude. But, you know, front and back, it's still going to be an orb for many, many months yet to come. So the chaos isn't over.
The chaos isn't over, yeah. I certainly think so. When do you feel might there be a little bit of relief that we slowly come out of?
Well, next year we will start to see the upswing. Right now we're at the very bottom, and not even quite at the bottom.
Mhm.
But 22 will represent the bottom. And then we'll start gradually coming up. And how fast people come up depends on the country, depends on the leaders. Okay. Are the
Mhm.
leaders corrupt, or do they really care for the people? If they're corrupt and it's just money and power to them, then the people are going to suffer.
Yeah.
And I, it's
But
frustrating.
but can't you imagine that a lot of countries will be leaderless?
Will be, what did you say?
Leaderless.
Leaderless. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Mm,
And it has to be that way.
mhm,
And hopefully good people will rise up, to be able to lead people. But there will be smaller communities. I think
mhm,
we're heading into a time of smaller groups of people, smaller communities helping each other, uh, borrowing from each other, people gardening, and then one person gardens this and one that, and they share everything and raise their own chickens and meat. And that's definitely going to come. And frankly, it's one of the best things that could happen,
mhm,
because the agricultural economy around the globe, with Monsanto and all of the toxins, the horrible food that we can't digest well, that's causing cancers and diabetes and heart disease, are these genetically modified foods. The best thing that could happen to us is to go back to nature. Grow our own food, grow our own animals, feed them organic food, let them go in the pastures and eat grass, rather than be feeding them organic grains, or GMO grains and such. So
mhm,
these are going to be good, and we're going to be forced to do it.
mhm,
And, people right now should be looking around for local growers, local organic growers, you know, local people starting communities to help each other. That's where we're headed.
mhm.
The systems that we've created are just no longer viable.
Yeah, what I found interesting, sometimes I get information from somebody who has whistleblowers in the government, here, our government. And so one of the reports was that, yeah, well, actually, um, the euro will be dead by 2023. That is a done deal, and that the logistic is already being put on US dollar and no longer on euro here in Germany. So they are already making preparations for that. And I, when I look, and plus they also said that, okay, they know they will not get the Great Reset. You remember probably that Klaus Schwab talked about a small window, yeah, and it appears that this window is closing. They know they will not get their Great Reset. They will not get that ID 2020 and blah 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 blah, and many other things that when they know it's over. That does not mean that the press does not push it any further. Of course they will, but yeah. So and when I listen to those informations and then I look at what is going on, I sometimes have the feeling that the self-appointed elites, they knew, because the astrology to them is important. Yeah, even if they never talk about it, it is not that they are illiterate in those
Right.
subjects. So I think they knew that this, yeah, resetting comes anyhow, tried to hijack those energies
Interesting.
and try to give it their idea, put their face on it. And now it's starting to blow back, and big time.
I don't think that they counted on people waking up.
Mhm.
I think that was a major flaw in their plan. They thought they would just come in and take power over, not recognizing that people really value their freedom and their sovereignty. People don't like being told what to do. You know, a lot of people fold because they still believe that the government is there to help them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all that naivete, which has to do with Neptune in Pisces, which is the savior complex. Just do what we tell you and we'll save you. And it's all just bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
None of it is true. It all has to do with power and money. And as people are waking up to that and seeing and following their intuition and going, whoa, this just doesn't make any sense. Follow that, people. It doesn't make sense. You know,
Yeah,
what
that is so important to train the own intuition.
Yeah.
Train that and start listening to it. My goodness.
Yeah. I heard about this plan 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was a legislator in the United States in the state of Idaho, an elected legislator. And after I got into the legislature, I was given a little book that was written in 1971 called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And it was written by members in Congress who saw what was going on. And they actually just spilled the whole plan. And this is what's coming, you know. And I even, after I got out of the legislature and, you know, raising my children and all of that stuff, I just kind of put that aside. But when all of this started, the COVID, I went, oh man, did the lights go on. The red flags went on based on what I had read, you know, 50 years ago. And I realized how close they were to that plan for a one world government, the New World Order. And they've been planning it a long time. And if people are naive enough to still believe in their government, then frankly, they deserve what they get.
Yeah, yeah, that is one of the reasons why Germany was reunited. Yeah, and I know that especially here in my country, people have this romanticized idea that it was the demonstrations and peaceful demonstrations. No, 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 no. That was nice for the press. It was a good look. It was a good narrative. But actually, on your way to a one-world government, you can no longer have these two blocks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to pull some strings in order to get all the countries on board. And that's what the COVID was all about, is to pull those strings and test how it would work.
And the African nations, the majority said thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, thank God
Yeah.
that majority didn't. I'm very concerned though right now about the little children.
Yeah.
You know, I've been concerned about vaccinations for a long time. I knew with my youngest, who's now 37, I did not vaccinate her. And I actually falsified her school records. I knew it would not be good for her. And I wasn't going to just roll over. And so I've known there were problems with vaccinations. And now in the United States, the FDA has approved on emergency status to vaccinate these children from age 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very troubling.
Yeah.
But what troubles me, you know, let them do what they want. But what troubles me even more is that people are following it.
I know that parents follow it without using, and I have seen a couple of articles, videos about people who had their misgivings, but they followed and now sorely regret their decisions. Follow your intuition, people. That's your best guide.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, Wendy, what is the reason? What is causing the ramping up of the energies?
Well, it's a combination of things. We've had stuff building for the last 2.5 years, like the Pluto Saturn conjunction where, all the COVID stuff started, and all of these other energies, Mars particularly. You have to understand that Mars is the trigger. And when Mars hits Pluto, what's it going to do? It's going to blow things up. When Mars hits Uranus, what's it going to do? Accidents, earthquakes, it just goes around. And so all of these energies, these astrological energies, have been building, particularly for the last 2 years. And they will culminate, mostly, there's still more to come, at the end of this month with the stellium, Mars Uranus North Node.
Yeah,
And
but that does not mean that it happens exactly at that.
not at that time.
That's like the yeah.
That's the
the
exact
start.
right. And then not only that, we have the Mars. So we've got this Uranus, Mars North Node, and then you've got Saturn squared to all of that. And what does Saturn represent? Big government, big business. Are we seeing governments fall? Are we seeing government leaders fall all around the world? And this is just the beginning. This isn't just a few isolated incidents. Look at Macron from France. Now, I don't know everything going on behind that. I think it's a little suspicious, but we don't know how many governments are going to fall. I know the United States government, the leaders that we have are out of there, it before the end of the year for sure. So it's many governments and all of
but I thought Biden said that he wants to run again in 2024.
We have to understand that he doesn't have cognition. Maybe in his mind, he still thinks he's 40. I'm gonna run for president again. He's delusional, and he's been delusional, and he is nothing more than a puppet for the elite. And that's what people need to understand. They chose him over Bernie Sanders, who would have been a wonderful selection, but they knew they couldn't control Bernie, number one, and number two, they would not allow Bernie because he would change the balance of power. So they chose some idiot that they could control, not only the president, but the vice president. They can control those people. They're just like, you might as well just paint strings up there and a puppet master above them. And, the vice president, they talk about everything she says.
She's still there. I never hear anything about her or from her.
Oh, she comes out and says these stupid things they call word salad. She never can come clear with anything. It's just
a couple of weeks ago I heard one, the passing of time, the importance of passing of time, and she said that again and again, and I thought, what are you talking about?
I know nobody knows what she's talking about. She just rambles on and on and on, and who knows? But the news media in the United States is so interesting, the mainstream news, and they've put together videos of this where every major outlet is saying exactly the same thing. I mean, if people can't see that there are just a few people pulling the strings and telling them exactly what they can say, to me, any right thinking person would look at that and go, what the hell? There's just no way that you can buy into any of that stuff anymore. And I think the further down the line we get into this destruction of our, convoluted societies, the more people are going to go, what's going on with the media? We can't listen. It's wrong. It's lies. It's deception, so the media is going to fall too. And that's part of the big structures of Capricorn. Major religions, you hear that the Pope is going to step down. And we've seen all the corruption that's gone on in the Catholic Church, sexual corruption.
But did that really happen? Did Francis say he wants to throw in the towel?
That's what I understand, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we've got that happening, you know, what's going on in the governments, what's going on with money, you know, what's going on with, you know, you look at the stock market.
Mhm.
And in the United States, you know, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. But I believe astrologically that before too long, there's going to be a really, really, really big crash. And it may take as long as a year to recover from that one. Right now, it's just up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little, but not with the energies that are coming.
Mhm.
It's going to crash pretty good. So money's huge. People need to, you know, take care of their money the best they can. And
Mhm.
just,
And so why do you think in that situation a credit union is the better choice?
well, a credit union is owned by the people who deposit.
Okay.
They're owned by the depositors. So the credit union that we belong to, we're a part of that ownership. So where, you know, big governments, they own all the money, you know, big banks, they own the money, it's their money, they control that money. But in a credit union, the people that are the depositors own the credit union.
Mhm.
So like here in New Mexico, we have the credit union, the Sandia Credit Union. We have a big train hub here where we live. And so there's the Railway Credit Union where, you know, the people can come and deposit their checks that they get, you know, from their business. They have education credit unions. And so people may want to look into credit unions in their area. And I don't know how that works in places like Germany. Do you
Mhm.
have independent things like that where people can put their money?
Yeah, I have to check that out, how that works exactly, and if we have a counterpart here.
Yeah,
That from the top of my head, I don't know.
yeah. The government doesn't own the money. The people own the money in a credit union. So yeah,
Yes.
see what you can find there, and that would be good to put out for people to let them know. Um, I've also heard of online banking from smaller companies that
Mhm.
aren't controlled by the feds. So I think people should be definitely looking into stuff like that. I'm concerned about people's pensions too, stuff they've worked for so long, that
Mhm.
may disappear. Uh,
Mhm.
I know somebody in Greece who was in one of the big banks, one of the big five. She said all of a sudden she got a letter in the mail that her accounts had been closed. And she
Mhm.
called him on the phone. She said, "What did you close? How come I wasn't notified?" She said, "Oh, well, we sent you 2 letters and you didn't respond." She said, "I never received anything. Was it a registered letter?" They said, "No, no, we just send it snail mail." She never got it. So they just closed her account. She didn't have a lot of money in there, I think 127 pounds, but still, now she's
Mhm.
got to go through all of this stuff, all of this red tape to get her money back, or they just keep it.
And she was not given a reason?
No. Oh, yes, it was non-compliance. It had something to do with Brexit.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to do with Brexit. She was in non-compliance. She never knew she was in non-compliance, which is another reason people need to check, you know, in terms of, am I in compliance? What are the regulations? But in my view, if you can just get it out and go into something smaller that isn't controlled, like some of the big banks are, then you're better off.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're pulling some shady stuff right now.
Yeah. So we have reached the top of the hour, and we will make a short break, and then we will come back and see the patrons. Until
Ah.
next time, bye bye.